All right.
You could just switch.
All right, here we go. With us right now, Coach Lori-Ann DiUlio Casdia. Coach Lori-Ann, you're a best-selling author. You're the founder of LDC Strategies. You're a success coach. Thank you so much, Coach Lori-Ann, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Josh. Appreciate being here.
Your book is titled Women Who Dream. And
Yes.
so I suspect we're going to talk a little bit about that, but sounds like we're going to talk a little bit about mindset, that sort of thing. But give us a quick overview of your impact in the world and who you serve and what you do.
Yeah, so I serve high achievers, accelerating their potential and achievement of their personal and professional goals. That's fancy talk to basically say that I work with people who want to take action, who haven't taken action yet. 92% statistically of the population take no action. They think about it, they want to do it, they take a couple of steps, but they really don't take action and jump in. And that's why I'm a take action coach. I help you jump in and just soar and get through the muck, so that you get there faster and better.
So who is that then? So sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. So you said you work with high achievers who are not achieving? I'm sorry.
They're high achievers, but what happens is
they're latent achievers.
Yeah, a little bit, but they get stuck. So there are people who show up for themselves. I look for three qualities when I coach people. One is to show up for themselves. The next is the desire to succeed. And the most important thing, and I can't teach any of these three, nobody can. The other thing is to have the fire in the belly. High achievers have the fire in the belly. They'll show up for themselves and they want to succeed, but they're in a place of they don't know where to go. So what happens is justifiable excuses come up where you're like, well, I have to do this first. And they'll make all kinds of excuses, and some of them have blocks. So I help them through the mental blocks, and we take away the excuses. We take excuses off the table, and we really set a strategy to allow them to soar to success.
So is it more they're lacking focus or they're lacking motivation?
So what it is
fear is paralyzing them.
It's a combination of all three. So remember these little balls, they're super balls, and they bounce, and when they bounce, they go all over the place and they look like a hot mess. Well, that doesn't mean it's not an achievable ball. It's just looking like it's a hot mess. We're similar to that. But if I take that same ball and we're in the same room, Josh, and I throw it directly at you, it will get to you, correct?
Eventually, yes.
Yes, exactly. So what it means is we have to harness that energy and get it into that straight line as opposed to us bouncing all over the place. So high achievers have lots and lots of ideas. They want to do a bunch of different things. Easily distracted. Shiny object syndrome is definitely a quality of the people who I work with, because they just are very creative and they have a lot of vision. Those are my people, because those are the people who want to take action, but they get easily distracted. So I keep them in their zone of genius from beginning to end and let those distractions come in. We kind of shelve them, we back burner them until it's time for us to implement them in the strategy, so they get to do everything that they want to do. I used to be that person with all these open and incompletes, and now I'm very, very focused, and I stay there because I learned how to harness that energy and stay focused without muting my creativity and my vision. Because that's something, you take that away, I take my ball, I go home, I'm like, no, I'm not playing. And so to stop that, I needed to learn how to do that. Now I teach other people how to do that.
Yeah. And what would be maybe another example or two how this might be showing up with maybe thinking about a client that you've worked with in the past and what their block was and what they came to realize?
Yeah. So I have this client. I adore her. She's fabulous. She came to me a little over a year ago, was in business for about 7 years. That the year she came to me, she was making about $57,000 a year in her business, doing a great job working out of her home. And she came to me and she was almost in tears. She goes, I can't do this anymore. I spend all my time packing up the boxes. I'm not doing what I do. And she's an artist and she creates the stuff that goes in the boxes, right? So we put standard operating procedures in. We found her inventory. We worked with that. We put SOP, standard operating procedures, in place. Now, this year, she'll make about $300,000 in sales. She's about 250 right now with another month to go. And she has 3 people working for her. She has procedures in place. She has an inventory system. So it's taking someone from a start and really implementing these things that are not in their zone of genius. And that's the important element here, is keeping people in that zone of genius. Because when we're not there, we get confused. And how do you know when you're in your zone of genius, Josh?
I feel like I'm in the flow.
Yes, exactly. You're in the flow, and you actually say things like, wow, where did the time go? Oh my gosh, look at what time it is. You look up and can't believe that it went away, but you're in your happy place. So it's a place that makes you happy. It's a place where you know what you need to do, and you're learning as you go, because we're always learning, right? But you have in business all these other things that you have to do, right? You have to get them done. I like to call them get-tos, but they're not your zone of genius. So then we outsource that. So the people who were packaging, those are her 3 people, they package it up so she no longer has to be there, and we can keep her in that artistic element and progressing her business forward. So that's a big jump in a year to be able to multiply her business that high.
Yeah. So Lorianne, talk about the ways that you work with your clients. Like, what does that look like?
So I have a very simple 6-step system, and it's guaranteed to help you launch a business, maximize or expand your revenue streams, and strategically systemize your business so you can spend more time with your family and friends and have more downtime. So here's the yummy part. We are much more creative and much more functional when we have downtime. So many people, I used to be a workaholic. To the point where my friends were like, you're going to have that cell phone surgically removed from your hands. And I didn't recognize that that's what I was doing. I had no downtime. I was constantly working, constantly thinking. That also led to constantly being stressed out, feeling the lack of satisfaction. Now that I've really minimized the amount of hours that I will work, what happens is I have my happy place. So I know that I get the reward of my happy place, even though when I'm working, I'm in my joyous place too, because I love what I do. So it's a nice combination. And we work on your mindset. We work on where your zone of genius is. We identify it. We work on how we're going to set that strategy up to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And we do that very systematically. And like I said, it's 6 steps.
Yeah. Your book, Women Who Dream, tell me about that. Who should be reading that? And what would you anticipate that transformation that would take place for the reader?
Yeah, anybody who's looking for a different way to look, that they feel uncomfortable within themselves. They're not looking inward. There are 30 of us who wrote in that book. One of my chapters called 2 Choices, and 2 Choices is basically, if we take all the emotion out, there's only really 2 choices to everything. It's a yes, it's a no, it's a go, it's a stop. It's a stuck or unstuck. All the other stuff is emotional compounding, and we're really thinking about other people, how other people react, and quite frankly, it's none of our business what anybody else thinks. And when you start thinking like that, you really start focusing on what you want. When was the last time, Josh, somebody asked you, what do you want? That's what we're asking ourselves. What do you want? And especially this time of year, this is a great time to think about, what do you want? Dream big. I always have my Dream Big masterclass in November. So we start dreaming big. We're looking at the what, not the how, not how it's going to be done, but what do we want to do in 2024? What do we want to do in our next year, right? And then in January, I always have my vision and goal setting masterclass. It's always the first Friday of every January. And we sit down and we dive in and really set those goals from those big dreams. But we got to start from a dream. It's like going on vacation and not knowing where we're going. Well, then how do we know how we're going to get there? We don't know where we're going. So are we taking a plane, a car, a boat, a train? We don't know that unless we know where our destination is. So we start at the big picture, the destination, and then we back up and we put strategy and a plan together so that we can step by step make it like digestible steps so that you actually execute and you become part of the 8% of action takers.
Yeah. All right. So Lorianne, let's give some to-dos to our friend that's been listening. And maybe it's an exercise that you could have someone do, some homework, however you want to call it. But let's make sure we've got some action items from this podcast episode.
Yeah, I love this. So action items, number 1, especially this time of year, I want you to sit down and write down all the things that you've accomplished in 2023. So I want you to turn around and look back at 2023. We need to celebrate our successes, small and large. They don't have to all be, big, huge accomplishments. The small ones, all these mini steps get us to the big ones, right? So we want to look back at 2023 and look at what we did. Look at our successes. We also want to look back and say, hey, what didn't we do well, and how could we change that, and does it still serve us? Because a lot of times when we're navigating, things don't serve us anymore, and we have to be ready to release that. Then I want you to turn the other direction and look into 2024. And I call this the big dream. And if anybody wants a PDF, I actually have a PDF of this. I'd be more than happy to share with your listeners. But we're going to look at 2024 and look at, now that we know what we learned in 2023, what are we going to change for 2024? What do we want in 2024? And take that look. And number one question, I love asking this, is what's your word for the year? My word for the year for 2023 was expansion. My word for 2024 is evolve. So I did my expansion this year, and now next year I'm going to work on evolving that expansion that I created. So some of my clients' words are things like simplify. They overcomplicate things. So we're going to simplify things. So I want you to look at your word of the year too. You do that homework, you're going to be prepared to start working on your goals and setting them in January.
It's to come up with a word of the year. By the way, sometimes people might look at that and go, I don't know. Okay, here's a simple way. And maybe I'm sure you have a much more effective way. Here's how I've done that, or things like that. So the way we did it, I remember last time when we needed to come up like with our values, like our core values, like what were our 5 core values. So you put everything on sticky notes, put it all up on a board, and hopefully you've come up with, like, if we're just coming up with one word, maybe we're talking 10, 15 different words, put them all up, and then process of elimination. And then I find that it's a lot easier when I can A/B, like, okay, like if it's this word versus this word, and then eventually you're going to come up with you want to come up with that S tier ranking, right? And then you're going to come up with, okay. But it's process elimination is how you get there. So the important thing, though, is to put it all out, like just word map it, just throw everything out on there, and then it will start to become clear. Is that kind of your process?
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'll walk you through the process. Or if you want the PDF, I'll be more than happy to drop that to you. And I'll give it to you so you can add it to this episode, so that they could just download it. But here's the thing. When you do that, don't eliminate anything in the beginning, because you're going to see a pattern with the words, and a lot of the words are duplicative. So if somebody says, I want honest and I want trustworthy, well, isn't that kind of the same thing? So you collapse them into each other, and you'll see that it collapses into a word that's very obvious, and you're like, oh, that's it. And when you have that aha moment, you'll know. When it hits you and resonates right in your chest, you'll know that that's the right word. So I love the sticky note process. You could do it on a computer, you could do it on index cards, however it works for you. I like to write with mirror markers that you could get at the dollar store, and I write it all over. I have this big mirror. I write all the words all over it, and then I slowly but surely shake it down into one word for the year. But what it does is it gives you a litmus test to know during the year, am I staying on track? It keeps you on track with your goals. It keeps you on track with your successes, and you're going to take leaps and bounds based on the fact that you're very focused.
Yeah. All right. Coach Lorianne, your website is ldcstrategies.com. When somebody goes there, was there some resources that you had to share that folks could get immediately from your website?
Yeah, they can go there, get that. If they can get a couple of different resources. They could get the Dream Big workbook. They can also get three quick steps to cleaning up your opens, incompletes, and messes. I love that one. That's a really good way to start a new year. It's just clean up all this little stuff that's hanging out, all those little bits and bobs that you just have to figure out what it is. So that takes you through that. And there's a bunch of other things that they can get off the website. They can also go to coachlorianne.com, and they can get some of the information off of that as well.
Yeah. All right. Coach Lorianne, it's been a pleasure. Again, your website, ldcstrategies.com. And then your book, is your book available on Amazon, or how do people get your book?
Yeah, the book is available on Amazon, Ingram. It's also available from my website. So if you go to the website, click on Women Who Dream, you could get it through that. That's an autographed copy. If that's of any interest, we autograph those.
Yeah, terrific. All right, Coach Lorianne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate being here.